Alright, welcome back everyone to another episode of Minecraft Therapy. Today I want to talk to y'all about aesthetics and creativity and how we should try and be creative. Specifically, I want to talk about two things that we highly value in the creative system: perfectionism and originality. I feel like this is relevant to me because when I try and create stuff, these are two ideals that I really try and value when creating. There's a really good line in a Cave Town song that I like where he says, "I want to make a color that no one else has seen before." And that's how I feel when I try and make stuff. And yet, obviously, it's not possible to make a color that no one else has seen before, or at least I don't think it is. So I kind of want to actually talk about why perfectionism and originality are not actually good things to try and pursue, even though we've kind of got it in our minds that they are the highest forms of being creative. So first, let's just talk about what exactly perfectionism and originality are. Is pretty self-explanatory. Perfectionism is making stuff without any mistakes, making stuff perfectly. And originality is making stuff that has never before been seen or done. So if you're going to make art, if you're painting a perfect painting might be a painting that perfectly captures reality. That's like a photograph. And originality would be something that's never before been done. So something like Cubism. When Picasso and Braque invented Cubism, that's highly original. And we see these two things as things that are really valuable in art. And it's pretty clear why, right? Just like in terms of our human brain aesthetic enjoyment of these things, we just really like these two things. They really tickle the brain for some reason. I don't know what it is about our neurological centers that's just gets the serotonin firing when we see something we've never seen before, and when we see something that's really smoothly perfect. But these two things are things that we value aesthetically. And it might not even be, as I'm saying it out loud, it might not even be that these things are inherently things that we value. Because I was talking about these two examples of cubism and realistic art, but these two things are actually kind of on opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of art, right? Because cubism is not realistic like a photograph. And if you do a painting that's just like a still life that's highly realistic, it might be perfect, but you might get knocked for not being original. So these two things are kind of intentional with each other, perfectionism and originality. But I want to talk about why they're both bad. So let's talk about perfectionism first and why perfectionism is bad. So I feel like it's kind of a cliche now that perfectionism is bad. Like, I feel like it's kind of maybe not widely accepted, but widely known that no one's perfect. We can't strive for perfectionism. Done is better than perfect. There's lots of cliches about perfectionism and why it's not good. And I feel like we say it's not good from a process perspective, right? Because if you try and pursue perfectionism, aka, making something creative without any mistakes, well, unless you are God himself incarnate, that is going to be really hard to do. And frankly, no one has done that in all of human history. So the odds are not stacked in your favor if you're trying to create something perfect. And I feel like I've experienced in my own life why perfectionism is not good. I feel like, especially with this YouTube channel, um, I've said it before, but I started this YouTube channel basically just to spew my thoughts out once a week and try and not be. The whole point of it was to not overthink it and not spend too much time trying to perfect it. And then as this YouTube channel grew and more people started watching it, I started feeling like I wanted to up the quality a little bit, and I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to increase the quality of what you're creating. That is because that comes from something deep within your soul where you're trying to create something better. And I don't think there's anything wrong with striving for, trying to create something better to better express yourself. I think where I went wrong, though, was I was trying really hard to get better. Now I'm actually starting to think that maybe it is bad to get better. But yeah, I was trying to I was really obsessed with quality over quantity with this YouTube thing. When the whole point of what I started this with actually the opposite in mind. I started with quantity over quality in mind, and that's what allowed it to even get off the ground. And then when I started obsessing too much with quality over quantity, well, that's when you had the big period of time when I wasn't posting for however many months, and my output actually slowed down because I feel like I was too obsessed with making something perfect that I ended up not making anything at all. And I feel like that is the normal knock against perfectionism, right? Because it gets you in your own head where you're trying to create something. You're trying to do the impossible, which is create something perfect. And because you're trying to do the impossible, by definition, it's not possible to do the impossible. So then you don't get it done. And then instead of having imperfect creations done, you try and fail to have a perfect creation done and end up with nothing in the process. And this is why we say that perfectionism is bad, because it prevents us from creating things. And I do agree with this. I think this is very valid and very true. And I'm trying to defeat this in my own life. I'm trying to just create things and not care about the quality of it, which is hard, right? It's hard for me to do because I feel like quality is important. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say that it's not important to make good things. But I think it's bad when it comes at the expense of making anything at all. And I do think that making things is more important than making good things, honestly. I have this thought in my head that being artistic and being creative should not be reserved for the talented. We should all be able to paint and draw and dance and sing, even if we're bad at it. But I feel like we are kind of told as a society that, only people who are good at being creative should be doing these things. And I think we say this because, well, there's validity to that, right? Because we don't want. It'd be bad if my Spotify recommended homepage was just full of garbage and I couldn't find any good songs to listen to, and it was just bad song after bad song. So there is value in making sure there's quality creative things in the world for other people to consume. I think that's different though than just making things for the fun of it, which I think is honestly the main point of being creative, is to just make things for the fun of it. Right? Because when you think about cavemen, right? Why did they paint on the cave walls? It wasn't to wasn't to make money. It wasn't to get famous. It wasn't for anything. It was just because, hey, I think this shit is pretty cool to do, and I'm gonna just paint it on the wall. And then, as we developed our capitalist society, we figured out like, oh, if you could like be really good at creating things, we can monetize it, and you can buy really expensive cars if you get really good at rapping and all this stuff. But that wasn't the original point of being artistic. The original part of being artistic, I think why cavemen were painting on the walls, and no one's going to be able to prove this because none of us are cavemen, but also that means none of y'all are going to be able to refute this, so just deal with it. But I think why we were painting shit on cave walls is because there was some part of our soul that just needed to be expressed. That's my explanation, and it kind of is like a religious almost. It's like kind of religious, right? It's like I'm saying there's like some soul part of us that needs. There's some deeper part of us beyond like the atoms that and the neurons and the synapses firing that make up who we are. And art is our way of expressing that. And I feel like when we lean into perfectionism too much, we are forgetting that the point of art is to express ourselves and who we are. And who we are, fundamentally, is imperfect. Human beings are imperfect. We've known this since the beginning of time. That's why Catholics feel so guilty, because we are born with this original sin, and we are, whatever. I'm getting a little too religious with it, but we humans are imperfect, and I think art is our way of expressing that. I'm trying to think about whether I want to dive more into like why we're imperfect, but I don't feel like that's the scope of this video. But yeah, we're imperfect. I feel like that's not too controversial of a statement, and I feel like, yeah, art is our way of kind of reckoning with that, reckoning with our imperfection and expressing it. And well, art is not necessarily about expressing imperfection, but art is about expressing ourselves, and we are fundamentally imperfect, and so by nature, like, what we express is imperfect. And I think like we lose that a little bit when we become too obsessed with quality. Even I'm saying that like the cliche is that perfectionism is bad, but I don't think we even truly believe that in our society, because we believe in quality and goodness of things. But I think if you say that imperfection is okay, then you have to accept that all imperfection is okay. There's no arbitrary line at which like something becomes. There's no arbitrary line at which something crosses the threshold to be good enough to be imperfect, right? If you accept that perfection is impossible and imperfection is good, then all imperfection has to be good. But I don't think we really believe in that as a society, because we value quality, right? Like I said before, like we think like certain songs are good and certain songs are bad, and some movies get a high score on Rotten Tomatoes and some movies get a lower score, and some albums get a high score on Pitchfork and some albums get a lower score. But I feel like judging things and like rating things with like points, like saying like assigning value points to art and creative outputs is contradictory and not part of the point of saying, and like not aligned with the idea that imperfection is good. Right? Our society is obsessed with goodness, right? We want to make society good and better, and we have to, um, there's value in that, right? There's value in making a car that's more fuel efficient and making um, a toilet that like more efficiently moves your crap from the toilet to outside. Um, but I think like there's value in making things better, right? There's value in, like I said before, there's value in trying to improve the quality of things. But I think we shouldn't be too obsessed with quality. And I think like as a society, we do think that there's a threshold for quality that things should hit, and if they don't hit them, then they're not worthy. Worthy, worthy in terms of getting our time, attention, or whatever. An example I'm going to give is homeless people, because I think as a society, one reason people give for not helping homeless people is that they don't deserve it. I'm going to say I don't necessarily believe this stuff, but this is an argument people make, right? People make the argument that people should pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, and if they're in a bad situation, they shouldn't get handouts or whatever to improve themselves. Maybe this isn't necessarily related to homeless people, but rather people in less fortunate situations. I guess I'm explaining like why we believe in a capitalist system, or we believe in, we don't perfectly help everyone who's in need. And I don't think it's because we don't believe that it's not possible. I think we believe it's because it's not fair, right? And we say this because there's a certain level of quality we feel like people need to hit to earn our help. For unemployment benefits, for example, the government requires that you try and look for a job to qualify for unemployment benefits. Right? So we're trying to impose some form of goodness or quality upon people to earn help, but I feel like this doesn't jive with the idea that we shouldn't be obsessed with perfection, because if you accept that imperfection is okay, like I said before, you have to be okay with all sorts of imperfection, and by the nature of human beings, there's going to be a lot of levels of imperfection in human being, and because of that, you have to be able to accept all imperfection and try and benefit them all. I guess from a religious aspect, this is why like Jesus was saying like you should help all people, right? Like you should like not look down upon other people. Now I'm like starting to get away from like the creative aspect of imperfection. But basically I'm saying that we as a society, like when it comes to creativity, we're all about imperfection is okay. But I feel like that should extend to other things as well. Because I think like it's hard for us to hold in our mind like these two ideas that, oh, imperfection is okay in art, but then when it comes to like my personal life or my business life, I should try and strive for perfection. I should try and strive to be the perfect worker, or like try and contribute to society maximally. I feel like this is related to an idea of shame. People feel like we should feel ashamed if we're mediocre or we're not doing enough, right? and once again, like this is kind of like where we say imperfection is okay, and yet if someone is mediocre at something in life, that's like the worst insult you could give someone. But this doesn't make sense because mediocre, by definition, is average. And by definition, the average person is average. Like, on average, I'm average at most things. And so what? I should feel bad about being average at, like, cooking and average at dancing and whatever? I don't think this makes sense. I feel like we need to embrace ourselves as humans, and I feel like this would lead to like a radical shift in society if we truly, oh, fuck these guys, fuck these pillagers. I feel like this would lead to like a radical shift in society if we were able to truly embrace imperfection, um, and would lead, I don't know. I think it would lead to betterment, right? A bettering of society. Now, there are people who would argue that it wouldn't be good if we embraced everyone's imperfection, right? Because then people would be lazy, people wouldn't want to contribute to society, no, nothing would get better, progress would get stalled. Um, there are certainly benefits to prioritizing perfection or and striving towards perfection. But I think the negatives outweigh the benefits because I feel like as a society, we've become very alienated. Like everyone feels so alienated. Like I feel like that is the word to describe our the current vibe of the culture. It's just like everyone's alienated from society, from community, from their friends, from their work, from government. Like, no one really feels like they are part of something bigger than ourselves, I feel like. I feel like we've gotten to the point where we feel like, I've said this before, but like we feel like society doesn't work for us anymore, but we work for society. Like we've created this monster that we can't seem to rein in and control. And I think part of it is because the monster, the society, wants us to always pursue progress because that is the that's like one of our values in our society is to like get better, increase like your utility so that you can maximize shareholder value, like just get better and better and better. But I feel like this has a really damaging effect on everyone's soul, especially in an artistic context, which is what I started this whole talk about. But I feel like I'm getting a little off the rails. But you know, whatever. Who cares? I feel like it hurts us artistically. It hurts our souls because we can't like reconcile in our brains that like our society asks us to try and strive for perfection, and yet we can't do it. And I feel like, why does that lead to alienation? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe because it's not like who we like. Like I said before, like we feel like, oh, if someone's doesn't reach a certain bar of like, I feel like we think there's like the top level of perfection, right? Which is like 100%. Let's say like a perfectly round a round rock that's like just a perfect sphere. That's like 100%. But then I feel like we think that like, oh, people should be at 70% perfect or something. You know what I mean? Like if you're not 70% perfect, then you don't deserve a roof over your head. You don't deserve food. You don't deserve whatever, right? We try and impose a limit, some sort of like quality limit or quality baseline on people. But I feel like that doesn't make sense because if you're saying that imperfection is okay, like how could you say that like 50% is not okay, but 70% is okay. Like, you just have to embrace that humans are imperfect. Like, um, it doesn't make sense to be like, you know, if you're trying your hardest and you can only get to 50%, well then you are just like not good enough to like be in our society. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I feel like we need to embrace imperfection, and yeah, that would just lead, I feel like that would lead to a radically different society. Who knows? It could be for the worse, right? This is just a thought experiment. Obviously, like, no one can say for certain whether or not it would be better or worse, but it's just my idea. And I definitely feel like, at least in the creative aspect, which is what this whole rant was started with, I feel like being embracing imperfection is really important so that you can express yourself and make stuff and just do anything. And I feel like art is just the expression of the self, right? If I'm saying that imperfection is okay with art, then I think imperfection has to be okay with like society as a whole, or like whatever we're saying there. But yeah, anyway, back to the artistic thing. I think it's important to embrace imperfection and just make shit. Just make shit. Um, like, even if you're bad at singing, make a song. If you're bad at drawing, make a make a painting. If you don't think this YouTube video is gonna be perfect, just frickin' hop on Minecraft, introverted madness, and make a video. Because the whole point of being alive is to experience all that this life has to offer, and like trying to hold yourself back to try and pursue perfection, which is not even something that's possible. That's like, I don't know. That's like being like, well, I'm not going to eat food because it's not going to make me live forever. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. You should just do it because eating food is awesome, and you should just make art because the act of making art is awesome. I think that's another thing with perfection that's important to hammer down, right? Because when we're talking about perfection, we're talking about the end product of something, right? Or quality, even. We're talking about the end product. We want the end product to be something good. But it's really not about the end product. It's about the process and like what you like get for yourself in creating something. It's like almost like it doesn't even matter if like the thing even gets created at the end of the day, as long as, well, it does matter because I think like we humans like to like look at something we've made and like feel proud with it. But like, it's like the process, I think, is just as important. Like, the act of creating is just as important as the creation itself, I think. And I think that is another reason why perfection is bad, because it's focusing too much on just the end product, and is the end product really good? But if you create something and you feel happy that you were able to express something in your soul, that is just as valuable as whether or not the end product is good or not. So yeah, I think perfection is bad. Just make shit. Embrace imperfection. We have to figure out a way to embrace. And I think like imperfection goes beyond just art. We should also think about how, like, what that means in our lives. Because I feel like, imperfection is not, saying imperfection is okay is not just bound to art. I think it's also like something we should think about societally or whatever. But yeah, this video is about art. So the next thing I want to talk about is originality in a creative aspect. I should really make a shield. I haven't made a shield because I feel like it blocks too much of the view in Minecraft, but also I hate dying in Minecraft. So let's make a shield real quick. I want to talk about originality and why originality, like perfection, is overrated and bad. So obviously we place a lot of value on originality in society. And it's kind of similar to why we like perfection. It's in the direction of progress, right? If you come up with an original invention like the light bulb, we really like that as a society. If you come up with an original painting, I don't even know how to make a shield. How do I make a shield? There we go. Make this shield for me. Thank you. I, um, Damn. Do you guys remember days? As an OG Minecraft player, we did not used to have this. You used to just have to fucking throw shit on the crafting table until you figured it out, or go on minecraftwiki.com. But they improved the UI, so good for them. Anyway, right, we like originality, right? Whether it's with like inventions or artistic stuff, like, oh, someone, honestly, I feel like this is interesting because I feel like we actually don't like originality in artistic stuff, because a lot of stuff that's original creatively gets a lot of pushback when it's first invented. Like all the like new art forms like cubism or impressionism, like we think it's cool now, but when it was first invented, people are like, what the fuck is this shit? Or like rap. I'm sure when rap was first invented, musicians were like, what the fuck is this shit? So that right there boosts my argument as to why originality is stupid and bad, because like what we might think, like sometimes we're like very hypocritical with originality, right? Because sometimes we like it, or we say it's something we value artistically, and yet throughout history, a lot of the times, artistically, there's been a lot of pushback when you make something original. So that right there is a very, it's like, originality is, well, I'm not saying it's bad to make new things, but I'm saying like people are very hypocritical with originality. And I feel like trying to overvalorize originality is kind of like perfection. It's a losing game. First of all, there's a lot less things to be original in the modern day than there were like 5,000 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure if I was born 5,000 years ago, I could have put two and two together and eventually figured out the Pythagorean theorem. And then it would have been called the introverted madness theorem. But guess what? I was born too late to invent that shit. And like, there's been lots of art forms and music that's been already made. There's only so many permutations of chords that can be made. So it's harder than ever to be original. And I feel like this is kind of related to an idea that like nothing any of us do really is original, right? Everything we do is based on something else, right? Because did Mozart invent the piano? No. Did Shakespeare invent the printing press or pen and paper or the English language? No. You know what I mean? Like, none of us can make anything without everything that came before us. Like, I can't even talk to you right now without the invention of language. So what I'm saying right now is derivative. And when people, like, every single thought I have is like part of a worldview that was taught to me as a baby. Like, if I had to construct a way of understanding the world as a baby on my own without society, let me tell you this, I would not be sitting here having these thoughts right now. I would be like trying to figure out why the sun comes up every day and is that a giant freaking alien, a really hot alien that's about to one day come to Earth and just eat me? Like, I don't know. Right? So I feel like the premise of originality, like we already pointed out that like it's like just bad and wrong. and not really something that's possible to do. But I feel like even beyond the fact that it's impossible to do, I feel like it's something we value, right? As a as a artistic value, right? Like we like things that are original. But I don't even think originality is something we should pursue. Like I don't think it's something that we should value. Um because then we get too obsessed with trying to make oh god, please don't kill me. We get too obsessed with trying to make something new that's never before been done. Um and we get too obsessed with defending our own original works and being like, well, I invented this and like it should be mine. Like, what if the person who invented zombie movies was like, actually, I invented this idea of like dead people coming back to life. No one is allowed to make a zombie movie except for me. Or if Picasso and Brock were like, oh, we invented cubism. No one is allowed to make a painting that has like squares in it except us. It's silly, right? It doesn't make sense. And so if we say this, I think then we should not value originality so much. I think like originality itself is not even, like I said before, it's not even like something that's really possible because we're all like deriving things based on like things that have been done before. But I also think it's like not even possible for people to not make things in their own way. I guess what I'm saying is like we have this idea of originality, which is like something totally new. It's like something that's like totally new, never before been done, like totally your own brainchild. But that is not like, even things that we consider to be original are things that have been derived from other things. You know what I mean? So like what we're considering to be original aren't original. And I feel like that is because it's true that when you make something, you put your own personal spin on it. I feel like it's impossible to make something and not put your own personal spin on it. Humans are actually kind of bad at perfectly stealing. If you try and perfectly paint the Starry Night, you're actually going to kind of fuck up and not perfectly copy it. You're going to put your own personal spin and touch on it. Like you can't help it almost. So even though I'm saying we shouldn't strive for originality, I'm also kind of saying that you can't help but be original. You can't help but put your own personal touch on things because we are not copying. We are not like printers. We don't have like a perfect copy button to perfectly imitate things. Everything you say and everything you do is original because you're doing it in your own way. So it's almost like I'm saying that originality is a built-in feature of what we do, that we don't have to strive for it as an ideal. I'm also saying that originality is not like something that's totally new, which is something you've probably heard before, right? That everything, even that idea that originality is not new is not a new idea. There's a book, Everything is a Remix. People have said, steal like an artist. It's like, even this idea is not original, right? But I'm saying it in my own original way. So even though it's not original, it is original. And I guess what I'm saying is that we shouldn't let our fear of not being original hold us back in any way, because all of us have something to say and have something to add to the conversation, because we are each individual human beings with our own voice and our own DNA and our own things to say. And I feel like with perfection and originality, we're losing like the point of art, the point of expressing, the point of life, which is to just enjoy it and express ourselves and express the love and the truth we feel in what we do. Like, why? I guess this is getting kind of philosophical, but it's like, why do any of us do anything? You know what I mean? Because the sun is going to explode one day. We're all going to die one day. There's not, if you think about the universe as just a bunch of atoms and that are bouncing around because the Big Bang happened one day, then there's not really a point to anything because it's a cold, unfeeling universe out there. So why do anything? And I think the reason we do anything is because we're human beings and like we are born with some spirit inside us that like transcends the atoms and like the physical material world that we see. I don't know. Maybe it's bullshit. Maybe it's only in our brains that like we hallucinate this idea of consciousness, right? Maybe consciousness is just a hallucination and it is an unfeeling world. In which case then consciousness is expressing itself. And I feel like there is maybe something beautiful in that, something beautiful in the universe becoming aware of itself and being able to express itself artistically in this way. And we shouldn't try and control it. I feel like when we try and strive for perfection or originality or any other values we may say are good, we're trying to impose certain values on the human experience, on I don't know, on like this weird, funky life that we live, when it is not that. I don't think the point of this whole thing is to like make things better even, or like try and oh, two creepers oh god, I'm gonna die. That was so bad. I don't know if we can find that cave again. Wow, what a imperfect way to end the video to really sum my point up. But yeah, I feel like we are just human beings. There's something in us that needs to express ourselves. And it doesn't matter if it's imperfect or it's unoriginal. It just needs to get expressed and get out there, because that is whatever is in our soul. Is like, that is what we're born with. That is our soul. It needs to get out there. And to try and deny that, sorry, I'm touching the mic. I shouldn't do that. To try and deny that is to betray some sense of like your humanity and like who you are. And I'm not out here trying to betray who I am. I'm out here trying to live my fucking life, bro. So this video has gone all over the place, but yeah, don't let perfection or originality or imperfection or unoriginality hold you back from creating. Just fucking leap into it. Imperfection and unoriginality are good. They're good. We should embrace them because they are what they are what we create. Like, so what, like, once again, we are gonna like hate ourselves for what we are. Like, we're gonna hate ourselves for having two hands. We're gonna hate ourselves for being imperfect and unoriginal. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think we should embrace it. And if we embrace it, it will allow us to focus on the main thing, which is creating and expressing. The main thing is to do those things. The main thing isn't to be perfect and original. Even though these are things that may come naturally from creating. And, you know, if I was a caveman and I saw someone paint a beautiful cave painting, I'll be like, that is a really beautiful cave painting. I'm not saying that there isn't like aesthetic value to things, and we shouldn't like compliment each other for like cool things that we make. But I think the obsession with goodness and originality and perfection kind of misses the point. And we should just all be creating things because creating in and of itself is a really awesome, beautiful thing. Yeah. I think last thing is I think when we say like when we have perfection and originality, like we're like rating things, right? We're saying like something is more perfect than something else or something is more original than something else. And I think it's kind of lame to judge other human beings against each other. Like I said before, if we are okay with imperfection, we just have to be okay with all human beings. And I feel like if we were able to do that, we might be able to truly reach utopia, but we seem to be far away from that. But I think it's something we should try and certainly strive for, is accepting everyone. Obviously, a lot easier said than done, once again, outside the scope of this video, but just food for thought. All right, that's a video. I'm going to try and find my shit after I end this video because I had some good stuff there. All right. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay sane. I'll catch you next time. Peace.